Let's tidy up this tangle of film by putting it on a reel. Here is a motion picture film, 1,000 feet, 16,000 separate photographs.
Welcome, everybody, to the official debate section of the charge.
What's the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order. I show you out of order.
Ro, thank you for coming on the show. We premised ourselves here by finding out where everybody came from before they got into film, because everybody's got like a crazy journey. It's always a weird story how it went. Like very few people wake up and go, "I'm going to Hollywood, baby." So before you, yeah. maybe you're different. Prove me wrong. So before we get into all the glitz and glamour of LA and all that shit, where did you come from? Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in a little town called Aurora, Colorado. Most people nowadays know it as the theater where the Dark Knight shooting happened. So that was my hometown. Yeah, what a great way to be related to Hollywood.
No kidding.
So I could go on about the Dark Knight shooting because it really impacted my family. Not in the same way. We didn't lose anybody, thank goodness. But he lived across the street from my mom's school. And used the school as like target practice. So little hint, he was really crazy before he went and did that. But yeah, I'm from Aurora, Colorado. I grew up not interested in performing arts outside of doing music. I was a performer. I did dance for 18 years of my life. I thought that was going to be my life.
What kind of dance did you do?
I did ballet, jazz, tap, lyrical, and point.
I did modern and what was once referred to as hip hop, but I just called it dancing like a Backstreet Boy.
It is dancing like a Backstreet Boy. They invented a lot of it. No, I love Backstreet Boys too, by the way. I got to see them twice in concert. Oh, love it. But yeah, no, I grew up there, had very little interest on being on stage outside of being a dancer. I thought I couldn't act, didn't relate it to dancing. I, in high school, actually became really obsessed with music. So I self-taught myself viola, flute, and percussion, took all of that. And I basically lived in the band room my entire high school career. So yeah, that was my jam. I was in the pit for the musicals. I tried out once to be on stage and ended up as a jitterbug in The Wizard of Oz.
Hey, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And then from there, I graduated high school. My dad refused to let me study anything in the performing arts. He said, no, you need to choose something that your brain and money are going to meet, and therefore you will be stable and do what, as I say.
That generation is plagued by that line of thinking. What did your dad want you to do? Was there anything he had in mind? We ended up deciding on nursing. Sure.
Because I liked helping people.
Oh, that's a bad way to get into nursing.
Especially after like my first semester at college, I was like, this is not for me. I went in the administrative track because I was like, yeah, poking people are cool. Like blood is cool, but like really not on a day-to-day basis. And I just was like, not interested. Biology didn't fascinate me. The paperwork didn't fascinate me. So I was like, all right, this isn't going to work. So I dropped out of college without my dad's knowing. And I already had a day job. I was working at Claire's at the time. So piercing ears at 16 years old, that was me. Technically 15 and a half because I do things illegally sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, I basically worked at Claire's, and then I eventually transferred to a temp agency that got me in corporate America.
Oh, okay. This is exactly
farthest
the trajectory.
Thing from entertainment.
No kidding. Well, hey, nowadays the shareholders are dictating how the fuck you guys get to make stuff, which is bullshit. But that's besides the point.
Yeah. That's for our industry issues night.
Yeah, exactly. You get it.
But yeah, I basically went into corporate America. I worked at Visa in their call center, helping people with cards being lost, ending up like activate your card, your fraud monitoring, all that kind of stuff. And that's where my comedy really started to take off because working the night shift, you get, hey, my name's Rod Long Johnson, and I think I lost my card. Do you mind if you just tell me what you're wearing?
And what do you get in shit if you engage and be like, I'm wearing a burlap sack, motherfucker?
Sometimes I did. It just depends because they do review some of the calls. So if they review that call specifically, you're in some deep crap.
Yeah, you're.
It was a lot of fun, and the group that I was in that did overnights was just a blast of a community at that job. And then they were closing down their call center because they were thinking, oh, we'll move to Miami because they don't have blizzards, not thinking that they have hurricanes, so their call center still has to shut down at some point. So they, when they did that, they said, you're welcome to have either a transfer package where we'll pay for you to move to Miami, or you can have a severance package that includes like 500 shares of stock at the time that they went public. And I was like, oh, I'll take those shares.
Yeah. You take the money and run.
Yeah. So that was what allowed me to move to LA. I did take a quick pit stop in Albuquerque, learned a little bit about the industry there while it was Breaking Bad, In Plain Sight, all those shows were coming up, and then found my way here.
So, like, where did you start, like, in the industry in Albuquerque? Like, were you just PAing? Were you cable pulling? Like, how'd you find your way in there?
So that is actually where my stand-up career started.
Okay, so there it is. There's the entertainment aspect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I moved there to be an actor because I was doing a lot of acting and even some producing. I did a challenge in Colorado before I left. It was called the 6 Films in 6 Months. So you had to turn out a film every month as it was screening at the end of the month. So I got a lot of practice of like, what is it like to be a producer? What does it mean to put the camera down? How do you get a crew together? All that kind of stuff in Colorado. And then when I moved to Albuquerque, I was like, okay, I just want to be on camera. Did a lot of like the casting director workshops there, a lot of acting classes. And then I was lucky to get background roles on a couple of the shows. Nothing you would have seen my shoulder in, sorry. But
well, it's a great shoulder, right? It's my shoulder.
Ooh, this is famous right here. But I really took the time to get to know the community because it was such a small film group at the time because it was barely coming up. Albuquerque Studios was just being finished when I left.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really nice to be around them. I got to be the host of New Mexico Game Show, which was on the local access station.
Nice.
Did a lot of stand-up because my co-host for the game show was like, you're funny and you need to do more with this. And then my cubicle mate at my workplace when I was in Albuquerque was like, you need to do this. So I took the chance and my friend was headlining, told me to get up on stage and tell a few jokes that I told him a couple days ago. Didn't even warn me I was getting on stage, and that took me off running. And then when I moved to LA, I did the Comedy Store, I did the Ice House, the Improv. I did my rounds.
So what year is this? I don't want to date you, but like what?
Oh, this is 2011, 2012.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So like Comedy Store, kind of on the start of the change there.
Yeah, when Mitzi was starting to get a little older, and yeah, it was starting to be changed over in ownership and things like that.
Yeah. Did you see the Store documentary?
Not yet. I've been meaning to.
Yeah, no. Hey, listen, you can't watch everything. And then it's your job to make me stuff, so don't feel bad.
Yes.
Right? You're the maker, I'm the consumer. Let's get this relationship right. No, I'm kidding. So and stand up, I mean, I'm by no means like this whole endeavor is like me learning to be funny, which is hilarious because all my other friends are funnier than I am. But
Aww.
No, I'm kidding. We all have our days. But like that bug of making a room like just blow up with laughter. It really does. Mm-hmm. It really does do so. So did you want, like, was your plan to go sitcom? Was your plan to just see where you landed when you got there? Like, did you have any sort of focus?
Yeah. I mean, it was just to see where I landed because, like you said, sometimes we do wake up and we say we're going to LA. So way back when I was 18, that was 2005, 2006, somewhere around there, I was in a really bad, like, relationship, domestic violence, abuse. Let's just say it that. And I woke up in the hospital one day after basically he beat me. And I didn't know what to do with my life. I just knew I couldn't be in Colorado anymore. I knew I couldn't continue the relationship. I had no interest in anything that was offered to me at that time because I had a new job on the horizon, did not care. And I went, well, why don't I go be an actor?
As one does.
Not knowing where it would take me.
So there's your, like, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is when all of this started to feel less like a dream and more like a reality, but there's your first thing. There's the first call. There's the first job. There's the first story experience. What was your first day of school?
So after the day after I got out of the hospital, I immediately went searching for acting classes, and I came across this guy named Matt Stetson, who had just moved to Colorado from LA. He and Bryan Cranston were basically neck and neck in every single role, but Bryan kept beating him. So he was like the bridesmaid to getting everything that Bryan had.
Is he the Brian? Is he the Bryan's maid?
Yes, he's the Bryan's maid. Yes, you made a joke. That was great.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Try the veal.
Yes. But yeah, he had just moved back to Colorado because he wanted to focus on family. And so I started taking classes with him. And then I started surfing the entire theater scene in Colorado.
Okay.
Because there's not really a film scene out there. I was lucky enough because about the 6 months after I'd made the decision, a huge LA film came through Colorado. And I got to work background for 3.5 weeks.
Which one was that?
Oh God, I don't even remember. It was not great.
Hey,
That's what I do remember. I remember taking my parents to the screening because I had no idea what the film was about. I just was like, I'm in the background of a lot of things. I'm even featured as a waitress. I walk and give the lead actor his drink. Woo, let's go see this, Mom. And we're 10 minutes into the film and there's a huge, like, gross sex scene. And I'm just looking at my parents being like, I did not this to be that way. I promise I'm not. And my dad was just like, oh my God, where's my daughter in this? Is she also having sex?
Yeah, how does my daughter show up and in what capacity? Oh my God.
Right, yeah.
And like, we all know how awkward it is to watch sex on screen with your parents, no matter what age. Like when I go to my mom's and we watch a movie and there's a sex scene and I'm crawling under the couch because I don't want to be in the same room as it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's embarrassing, especially after you've been pumping this movie up, being like, I'm going to be a star out of this, because I had no idea, no point of reference. I was like, some people from LA are here.
But like, okay, so yeah, just because it's not a big thing doesn't mean it's not a big learning experience, right? So doing background and just seeing the process of everything. And like, as someone who front of the camera, like, besides the stuff that we all, like, you hear acting school or acting lessons, right? What are some of the things that the average person wouldn't know go into those lessons beyond learning your lines and, hitting your mark? Like, what else are you being taught inside of that?
I mean, you're being taught that time is money and money is time.
Okay.
And you get to see how quickly it goes away and how fast a day can go if you're not paying attention. There were so many, like, even in more recent years with experience on set, like, there's so many times you just sit back and you go, how is this 12 hours? Like, we've shot 2 pages. How has 12 hours gone by? And it's only 2 pages that we've shot. And then there's other days where you're like, shit, we just did 15 pages and it's only eight hours. Like, what?
Well, what happens there then to that? Is it the crew and everybody's gelling, or is it the writing? Is it the content? Is it easier to pull off those scenes than other scenes?
Well, it's a combination of all of that, but really what it comes down to is the preparation. Like, if the director actually comes in with a plan, okay, we're going to do X, Y, Z, we're going to set up this, that, and that, and they're making decisions and they don't hesitate and nobody questions them. That's the hard part, is you can't be questioned as a director when you get to that point on set. You just can't. Yeah. Because once you do, it's a snowball effect. All of a sudden the producer asks, hey, can we have this background actor in a green shirt? And you're like, but the lead actor is in a green shirt. And then the next thing they're asking is, hey, can we move that booth over here? Can we put this? And then camera starts asking, why are we putting the camera here? It's a recipe for disaster once questions start.
That's so interesting, because that, to the layman, to the guy on the other side of to someone who's not on set, it's like, how can it all fall apart? But yeah, as soon as confidence is lost, you're right, it's the snowball effect. Huh.
Yeah.
Ding, the more you know. So the acting lessons were in Albuquerque. When do we head to La La Land?
So after about a year in Albuquerque and doing some of their smaller little comedy venues, the casting director, who was local, pulled me aside and said, Ro, look, you're young. You ain't got a wrinkle on your face, which is, a lot to say for decades later. Yeah, sure. But she pulled me aside and she said, how much more money do you have? Because at the time I was working like a part-time job. I was about to lose it because they were done with the seasonal work that I was there for. And I didn't have any other job leads. I kept applying, got nothing. But she was like, before you run out of money, go now. And I said, really? She's like, yeah, go to LA. They'll cast you because they need your type. you aren't grungy enough, you aren't dirty enough, you don't look like you've seen life yet. So go to LA.
Wait a minute, those are compliments?
Yeah, they were compliments, believe it or not.
You're the perfect amount of grunge. Head west.
Yes, because if you think about it, at the time they were doing like Breaking Bad, and it had to be like drug criminals, and like
Sure.
I could have been like the ditzy girlfriend that was like, "Oh, look, I'm innocent. I don't know what drugs are," but they didn't write that role.
No, they didn't. They wrote a guy who said "bitch" 47 times an episode, right?
Yes,
who couldn't get a
exactly.
girlfriend. So there was, you go west, find something else. Okay, so so she convinces you to go, and you get there. What's like everybody who I've talked to who's gotten to LA the first time. There's always an LA moment. There's always like a oh shit, I'm not in Aurora anymore. You got one of those?
Oh my God, I want to say the whole first year, like anybody who comes out to LA, like I tell them the first year is just initiation. Don't expect to get booked. Don't expect to like work outside of like a day job. But I mean, the first time I got a ticket for street parking.
Oh, fuck.
Because there's street sweeping, and I didn't realize you should pay attention to a sign that says, "Do not park here on Tuesdays for street sweeping." And I was like, we don't do street sweeping except once every 3 months in Denver, in Aurora. So what is this? But yeah, no, that was probably an awakening moment. My first car accident on the 405 was an awakening moment.
Oh, was that 8 lanes total or 12?
That's 8 where I was at, because I was on the border of LA and Orange County. So
oh my God.
yeah.
Highways are like instant panic attacks for me. Even with someone else driving, I'm like, there's too many people in one space. And you're all wanting to get ahead of it's angry people in the same space, all wanting their own direction. You guys you blow my mind. Yeah. So like, did they take your ride, or did they put the cap on your wheel? Like what was the end result?
Okay. So I hope this dude is not actually listening to this podcast, because
I can assure you he is not.
So what ended up happening is I rear-ended him. I wasn't paying attention. I was on my phone, admittedly.
Sure.
And as soon as I hit him, we were going like 20 miles an hour because it was back to back. But I hit him. He pulled over. I totally instantly welled up in tears because I was so frustrated. I was like on hour 2 of being in traffic, trying to get to acting class. And I just turned to him and I was like, "Look, sir, you don't understand. I don't have the money to pay for this bumper, and please don't put it on my insurance. I don't want my dad to know." And like, I instantly was like a disaster, absolute disaster. And the guy just looked at me and said, "I understand," and got back in his car and left. He was like, "You're good. I'm not going to call the cops. It's nothing."
And I bet you've paid it forward ever since.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. As my mother would say, you have a horseshoe buried inside you somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. So like, initiation and what are those, cause I mean, I like that you came from one side of the camera and you've migrated to the other side of the camera, and we'll get there and all that. But I haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of people who've done acting. And, what was one of your favorite acting class exercises? Like what was the one that really put you into character, or like helped you figure your shit out?
Oh, I'm going to give a little bit of a bump to this teacher, because this teacher I think is phenomenal.
The floor is yours.
Her name is Warner Laughlin. I also love Robert D'Avanzo. Those two here in LA, top, absolutely love. Have no qualms, have no drama behind them, like absolute top-notch acting coaches. And one of the things that I really appreciated about Warner Laughlin is she takes you through this meditation type series, where you take a scene, you take a character, you kind of get all the known details in the script of like, okay, my character has a brother, I'm 36 years old. You take all that information and then you sit back to back with your other actor that's in the scene, or actors, and you all close your eyes and you improv a situation that's not in the script. So you find like, okay, we're going to go to the grocery store. We're all friends or roommates or whatever. We're going to improv what it's like if we all go to the grocery store at once to buy food for dinner. And you just close your eyes and you work with each other to be able to build this reality of what the grocery store looks like. What are we making for dinner? And how that bonds every actor together and brings your character so much more forward. It gives performances unlike I've ever seen.
That sounds, really does. Well, yeah, because you are literally eyes closed, so it's all from imagination. you can't react to anybody else's mannerisms or facial features or tone. Well, tone is the only thing you have, I guess, right?
Exactly.
So, and there's a lot in tone and inflection. See, like, and I think that's really neat. And like, I can be a goofball, and I did dancing and singing and acting and musical theater growing up. Like I used to be very okay front and center. It's been years since, but I hear that exercise, and I would, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I would want to try it, but I would feel so weird. So how do you find the ability to let go, to not be self-judgmental, or to think someone's going to laugh? Like, how do you make that jump?
It takes a lot of trust in who you're with in that group with your eyes shut. And it takes, I did improv a lot. I think I went through Second City's conservatory program, and I did a lot of improv in Denver and a little bit in Albuquerque, but that's where my home is in improv. So I'm fine saying whatever and fine. And I trust myself enough that my brain's going to eventually come to something that I should say. And when I say it, it actually seems to be correct, and it rolls. So, but it was a lot of building that trust in myself to know that my gut instinct, 100% dead on, go with it. And when you have other actors that have that same intuition of like, I know what my gut wants me to say, and the connections my brain is making is accurate for what needs to come out, that's where you drop the fact that, hey, I'm nervous about this, or hey, I don't know what to say. This is, I can't do this exercise. It's really a trust.
That's so cool. Cause I guess it's two people going into you're in it together.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's the only way out is through. And when you think
look at you, Yoda.
Yeah.
Ooh,
when you realize that it's 100%, you just have to go through it. And when you go through it enough times, it's kind of like, what's a good analogy? All I can think of is pain analogies. If you keep giving yourself a paper cut, eventually a paper cut's not going to hurt anymore.
True enough. Yeah, no, it's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Do you remember the first callback? Do you remember the first call?
For a role?
For a role.
Oh my God. So,
and I know it's going to be small. It's going to be the first one. It doesn't matter. But it was so fucking big that day, because it was like I booked it.
This is okay. So this is when I knew I was on the right path of life, and that I had to pursue the entertainment as a career. So remember how back in Denver, I was like surfing the theaters and being like, how do I make this happen? My very first audition was for a small little theater in Denver. They were doing this play called Cactus Flower. I'd never heard of it before. I was just like, I'm going to go audition, whatever. I remember reading, and then Bonnie, the director, brought me back for callbacks. And I was like, what does this even mean? Because I didn't even know. I knew it through school that there was such thing as a callback, but I was like, I don't even know what to make of this. Okay, cool. And I showed up, and I thought I lost the role. I got up, I had to go first, did the scene how I thought it was supposed to be. I knew it didn't fly. And then the other person that was going for the same role got up, and she basically gave the same direction that I was given. Got up to go do it. She walked 2 steps on stage and said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. And it wasn't even like it was an innocuous, like sexual fantasy, anything. It literally was just come out and flirt with the other guy, which is as it's written in the script. It was just polite flirting.
Bat your eyes.
But yeah, she got out and she said, I can't do this. I don't feel good. I'm sorry, but can I read still? And just sit in a chair.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. And the director was like, is it just because you don't like the context or whatever? And she's like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with this. And I remember sitting in my chair and my gut going, you got the role, bro. Just like, I did. I actually got to do the play, and it was an amazing cast. I'm still friends with them today. I'll have to pump up and be like, hey guys, I talk about Cactus Flower. Remember that?
Send it all to me. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I mean, yeah, it's cause it's the thing where like everybody's vying for the same thing, you know, and it's like the barest form of what's the word I'm looking for? Competition.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's where I learned, it was the biggest learning lesson. If you're not going to be comfortable doing it, don't show up in the first place. Just don't. because you're wasting everybody's time and putting people, because like I was in anxiety the entire time being like, do I get the role? Do I not get the role? Like what's happening, until she got up and did that. And I was like,
fuck you.
Yeah.
Walking panic attack human.
Right.
No, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I just got the email today that we're doing Winnipeg Comic Con, and that's like a fuck yeah, right? Like I get those things where you're like, it's in limbo and you don't know, and you're waiting. And
Yeah.
you're waiting. And I by no means do I mean to diminish your getting your role and comparing it to a con full of nerds who don't shower. Like
Dude, it's equal.
Okay.
It's equal.
Cactus flower's a big deal over here.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
what's the transition to wanting to be behind the camera? What is there a moment? Is there a what made that happen?
Yeah. So I was getting some acting roles, mainly in commercials. I took a commercial class out here that like guaranteed you getting into commercials, and I booked 2 commercials. So I was like, hey, this is happening.
Nice.
But I couldn't get an agent to save my life. Every time I walked in, they said, you're too tall, too blonde, too white. And it was right at the beginning of
Okay,
the
hang on.
diversity. Yes.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, shoot me from down here or shoot me from up here. I'll dye my hair and talk to the editor. We can change the color.
Right. Yeah. But yeah,
okay, right at the beginning of diversity, I get it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I got to find something else to financially support myself while I pursue this performing career, because I still wanted to do it at that time.
Yeah.
And I was on a casting website, and one of the ads on there was want to learn script supervising. Call me. Like no name, just a phone number. It was like, you know, one of those things when you turn the newspaper open and it's in the classifieds, and it's just really like, you shouldn't do this because it's probably a Nazi posting.
Up here, I don't know if they have them down there, but up here it's like someone puts like I will cut your lawn or do yard work, and then there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom you just pull, and it's got the phone number so you can take the tab with you. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's so suspect.
It 100% felt like that. But you know what? I picked up the phone. I talked to him. It turned out to be a guy named Mark Thomas, 25-year industry veteran as a script supervisor. And he had a 12-week course. I gave him my parameters. I was like, look, I'm poor as shit. You know what that's like. I'm barely scraping by. And he's like, pay me what you can, and I will make sure you're working.
Wow.
And he trained me for 12 weeks. I got to shadow him on 3 projects. And then after those 3 projects, it was about 4 months in, and I was like, okay, I don't know if this is going to become anything. And then he calls me about a week before I was like, all right, I got to pull the plug on this and go to something else. He calls me and he's like, hey, there's this show. It's a feature film in San Diego. Can you go? Their script soup just had to leave before a family emergency. And I was like, okay, I'm going. I'm going. And so luckily at the time I had a friend who was in San Diego at the time. So I stayed with her and did the feature, and that producer talked to another producer, which talked to another producer, and I'd been working consistent since.
So for listener, script supervisor, if I'm not mistaken, you're in charge of like continuity and making sure the script stays within the parameters of it not being need to be written by the writer again. Is that kind of where I'm correct?
It is a little bit of that. Some of it is too, is we're on set making sure that the camera is placed in the right spot, so when you edit it, it doesn't like get jarring or the audience can't follow along with what's going on.
Sure.
We take editor notes so that way when they get the footage, they know, oh, this is the best take. Let's put this into the rough cut first, so that way the director can see their best takes before we start digging. We do a lot of prep as far as making sure that script timelines make sense. So it's not like this takes place in 1942 where he gets married and then he dies in 1941. So that doesn't make sense. We kind of keep an eye out for all those kinds of things.
Oh man, that seems like a natural progression to the chair, because you're combing over a script constantly. You're having to piece it together in different departments, maybe for later. You're dog tagging shit. You're making sure it all compiles, which is essentially what the director's commanding everybody to do. So
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay, do a lot of script supervisors start there and kind of work their way in, or is it like is it just for you?
There is a good handful of us that have turned from script supervising to directing, particularly in the TV pipeline. So if you get on a TV show and you're rock solid for like the first season, second season, even the third season, there is some point where the producer turns to you and says, hey, do you have an interest in directing?
Wow.
And yeah, because it's easier for them, especially in TV, as a script supervisor, you know that show inside and out. You know what the shots are, you know how the stories unfold, what the acts are, how it needs to flow for TV commercials. It's an easy jump in TV once you know all of that.
And the TV pipeline is like, those are the maybe shorter days, but constant working, like six out of 7 days a week, where instead of it's 16-hour days, unless you're trying to shoot 4 or 5 episodes in a day, but that's the standard model, I would assume.
Well, it depends on what type of TV show you're on. If you're on NCIS, they shoot sometimes 24 hours a day. They just bring in a second crew.
Really?
Yeah, they'll bring in a second crew to take over that second half of the day. But essentially in TV, like we get 9 days, sometimes 7, to shoot an hour-long drama. Half-hour comedies get between, I think, 5 to 7. The ones that I've been on have been 5 to 7. Sitcoms are the best, which is what I'm trying to get into. Because literally you rehearse Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You shoot some stuff on Thursday. You have the live audience show on Friday. And then it's sayonara. Move on to the next episode.
Oh, that's the unicorn in the TV industry.
It is. And like, it's not always full 12-hour days either. Some departments are, obviously. I don't want to like make a blanket statement. But I mean, most of the time that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is just rehearsal and blocking and then displaying it to the network and saying, hey, did this joke land? Do we need rewrites? Do we think it's going to fly on Friday night with the live audience? All of that. So it's like, it's kind of nice in sitcom land.
I want to quit my job and do it. I can't. I wouldn't. I'm bullshitting. I'm full of shit. So like that live show, that must be like, that seems fun with the live audience. I mean, because all of the crew are doing their job in front of somebody. So is it performative, one might say?
I would love to say that the live shows that I've done, so I've done like the Hollywood Christmas Parade, Masters of Illusion, RuPaul Drag Race. I was a script soup for that. It's not as performative because I'm hidden away in a director's booth.
Oh,
I know.
You're not
I
sitting
will
down
say
there with all the laughter, like all the I imagine you like Lorne Michaels, right behind the fucking camera, right where you want to be. But okay, you're up in the booth with the program and all that. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I got to watch 12 monitors for some reason. You know, it's just continuity and making sure things are happening correctly on the screen.
Okay, this is a great transition. Thank you for help with the heavy lifting, because now we can start talking about some of the things that you've done now being on this side of it. So like, you mentioned a bunch of different things that you did, and I want to save the RuPaul stuff for a little later, because that stuff, like that show, I don't even know anymore. Like, Yas Queen is a constant two-word phrase in my house. I don't even know what it means, but I say it anyway. It is to the moon. But like you said, did you do an award show? Which award show did you?
Yeah, we've done, I had the pleasure of working on the People's Choice and the Kids' Choice Awards this last go around. I've also done the Family Film Awards, which was a lot of fun. And then the Global Spin Awards, which probably isn't big in your guys' world, kind of big in the rap industry and culture here.
What is that?
So it's just a celebration for rap artists, and it's another kind of like VMAs, but specifically to rap, hip hop, R&B, that sector of music.
Yeah, because the main award shows seem to forget that rap is a genre.
Yeah,
like it's like the Oscars. They don't want to give an Oscar to Spider-Man. They want to give it to La La Land. I mean Moonlight, right? Or Dunkirk, right? Or like something that Warren Beatty's gonna fuck up. But like it's okay. For the people's like, I saw a clip once, and maybe you can confirm this, but it was a clip of a woman directing a live event with multiple cameras, and it looked like she was conducting and go. Is that what's going on in your world when you're doing something like that?
Yep, pretty much, especially for like the Hollywood Christmas Parade, because we don't get a take two on the parade.
No, once it's passing you, it's gone.
Yeah. So a lot of that, I think what you're referencing is the Grease clip, which Carrie Havel, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but Carrie Havel is in that, and she's conducting the song cadence for the camera.
Yes, that's what she's doing.
Yeah, and it is a lot like that, especially when you have a musical number. When I'm sitting in the associate director seat, the director's already marked out where the camera should be and where I should be calling them.
Really?
So it's just me and the teleprompter as he's like QCing and trying to give the cameras a heads up on the next thing and organizing all of that. So it is a lot of like, okay, camera 1, 2, 3, 4, ready, 6, and like just go. I love it because I'm addicted to adrenaline. There's nothing more adrenaline flowing. I guess a roller coaster would be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Nothing.
I'm imagining that scenario, and it's already making me sweat. And like, because if you call the wrong thing, someone's going to listen to you. Like you're like a special CIA operator, where like if you point in the wrong direction, you can kill the fucking moment pretty quick. And then like when it all goes off. And then it all completes, and then they call it commercial break. Like, do you feel? And then you got to do it all over again.
Yeah, I know. And even that commercial break, it ain't a breather for me. I'm sitting there turning my pages. I'm hearing the chatter because the people who want to kill me are right behind me for that one missed call.
Wow.
They're whispering and going da 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 da. I have to ignore that while I'm like, yep, not going to do that again. Here's the next quarter. Here we go.
Okay, so when you see, like, you know what the live TV format feels like, do you... I've asked this of anybody who works in film, when their department, when they're watching what they do, but someone else is doing it, can you catch stuff? Can you see where a glitch might have been, or you're like, what can you tell what they were doing wrong because you're a savant kind of shit?
Oh yeah, I can generally pick it up. It's funny because me and my husband love watching live sports. Like we're Dodgers fans through and through. Love watching baseball. Love watching football. But every once in a while, I'll be like, why is the camera not in color? It's not the correct color. And I'll be sitting there yelling, shading, shading, shading. Like, who's shading this camera? Like, why is the teleprompter not doing anything? So yeah, there's times where I pick it up and I'm like, oh, they accidentally did the pre-roll a little too early.
And like, what's it like? What's the recovery like? Do you have any room for error? Like, are you on the delay all the time? Are you not on the? Because a parade doesn't seem like something where somebody would say something wrong unless it's the New Year's Eve party and Andy Cohen's drunk. But like, you know, is like, do you have any time to maneuver?
Yeah, I mean, the Christmas parade, really, we're blessed because the Christmas parade actually happens the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Sure.
And then it doesn't air until December 15th, 16th, 17th.
Oh, so you can cut.
So there is some, yeah, there is some time that if we didn't get it, we can usually go back and recreate some of it, especially with the hosts, because between floats we'll like pause something so the host can restate something, whatever. But it sucks if we happen to not have a camera where, like, say the lead girl in the marching band does a flip and we missed it except on the wide shot. We're like, all right, I guess it's just going to play in a wide shot. Sorry, kid.
Mom, what's that in the background? I don't know. They didn't get it.
Exactly. You know, and then, so we do edit some of those. We're still shooting it as if it's live into a cut on the line cut, but it's not like do or die so much.
Yeah, no, I would imagine so. Whereas like television, you get to move back and forth, but yeah, you can always fix something. You don't always get another take, but you can always fix it essentially.
Yeah, it's not Macy's Day Parade, which is my favorite thing to pick apart. I hope one year I get to work on it. That and the New Year's Eve Ryan Seacrest, Dick Clark. I would love to work on those in the moment, in the heat of it, and be like, well, we accidentally cut to camera 3 and show Al Roker now. I guess we're tossing to Al Roker. 8 years. Like, yeah.
Hey, Al, what are you doing? Just having lunch. What are you doing? I'm not supposed to be on camera.
Right.
That's fun. Would you ever want to do an award show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like doing the Oscars at the Kodak and stuff.
Yeah, because technically award shows, in my opinion, I'll just speak for myself.
Sure.
They're easy
because
a lot of the pre-planning, like again, going back to that, you got to prep. Most of it's already prepped. You know where the announcer is going to be standing. You know when the host comes out. You know where talent's going to generally be coming from. And you've been practicing that days leading up. So they'll even bring in like background people to act as if they're like Kate Winslet and sit in her assigned seat and walk up so the cameraman can figure out, is there a problem with where I'm positioning? Does it need to be from a different angle? And they practice all of that. So like by the time that it goes live, unless something hits the fan and somebody just decides to go avant-garde, it's pretty much like clockwork for most of it.
There's two things I need to say to you. One, I'm going to say there's a long-standing history in our show with my misunderstanding of what avant-garde means. So thank you very much for using the term. I've eaten shit for 200 some odd episodes now. Second, though, what would you have done if you were hosting the Oscars and Chris Rock got smacked?
Well, first thing you do is you don't cut away right away. You wait for the reaction.
Really?
And then, you have to wait for that reaction because that's called drama.
No
and
shit.
That's what people watch.
Okay.
And then after that, you kind of cut away to something else and you turn your chair around and you go, I'm going to commercial to the producers, and you go to commercial until they've decided what they want to do.
What was
really all you can do at that point? And it's funny because the DGA had a seminar called When Shit Hits the Fan.
I'm sure.
When shit happens. And that came up, and I got to hear the director and the AD who was in the booth at that time talk it through and like their process of what do we do from here and how do we continue the show? And it's literally the show must go on.
Totally. No, yeah, Disney's giving that space away for free. We gotta, you gotta make something happen. But like, do you decide? They're like, Robert Downey Jr. cut to Robert. Like, do you decide who you cut to, or do you?
I mean, yeah, you've got cameras around, so you can generally choose until you start hearing the powers that be that sit right behind you start saying, no, go to this, go to that. You just try to find other things that can be either more entertaining or at least not take it so far that it feels like the flow got broken. You just try to stay in the story because you don't want to come out of it in case the audience is texting their friends being like, hey, turn the channel, But you got to keep it realistic in that this is real life. This is what live TV is about. And if you cut away and you instantly go, oh, he got smacked, go to commercial, it doesn't help your cause when you come back because people are going to be wondering what happened.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that because I always think from like the sponsor's perception or whoever's paying for something. That's who I'm thinking of, right? But I'm not thinking of the fact that the people who are putting on the show have to let it ride so that you can explain what happens when you come back. Interesting. Yeah. Even drama in a real award show setting still counts for something.
Yep.
Man, you were giving me a whole different perspective of live television. I love it.
I love it.
It's you're a conductor. You're making a performance happen, and that's fucking cool in short. So let's skip over to reality television. How did you find yourself script supervising for Drag Race? My wife watches it. The guys on the show's wives watch it. Everybody in my orbit is a Drag Race fan. So I can't not press you on some of this stuff.
So essentially, I went from scripted to unscripted. I ended up script supervising for a director who worked primarily in live TV. And I pulled out something because we were doing a multicam sitcom type setup. And I pulled something out of my hat that I was like, this technically won't work, and pointed it out. And he was like, you know much more than you're letting yourself know. And I went, wait, what? Because even that statement, I was like, I know what? But he was like, no, you know more, and you're going to come with me to my next show. And the next show was the Hollywood Christmas Parade.
Okay.
And I was like, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. And he's like, yeah, you're going to sit here. He sent me the Grease video and said, this is what you're going to do. And I went, yeah, that sounds cool. That's not script supervising.
That's a fucking crash course.
Yes, it was. Like, I am the school of hard knocks. I am afraid of nothing because of that. But essentially,
before you go on, I want to ask you, do you think that made you tougher to last out there? Do you think that added something to your confidence because of that kind of scenario being thrown to the wolves instead of, gently patted on the butt and everything will be okay?
Oh, 100%. The fact that I had to be so unprepared, like the self-teaching that I've had to do and the breaking down of everything that has gotten to me in my career 100% Hard Knocks I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't think I could have gone to film school and come out feeling and knowing what I do know now. Because I had to learn it on the fly, and I had people who entrusted me and sometimes doubted me, which gave me more motivation to be like, no, I do know what I'm doing. And I can show you that this is XYZ, or, this camera does not do this or does do that. And I really wouldn't have it any other way.
That's cool. I dig that. Because, like, self-taught people, like, I'm self-taught. Everything I've learned from the internet. Fuck, that was a bad way to learn. But, like, it's the only place to learn. YouTube, thank you. This is input and output of sound into speakers and microphone cables. Because literally, I knew shit. But, like, how do you tell yourself, like, is it the result, or is it the confirmation from somebody else pointing it out? How do you tell yourself that the stuff you taught yourself is the right stuff?
It started out as that outside validation. It really did.
All right. All right. That's
I think it all starts there. And then it did eventually come to getting the results. Like, I just finished editing a VFX short that I didn't intend to be a VFX, but we made it green screen. Woo. Should have known that ahead of time. But like, I had to be like, okay, how am I going to put this GPS screen in this car? How am I going to do that? Because I set myself up to do this. Am I going to set myself up for failure? Probably. But I had to figure it out. And now it is results driven of like, oh yeah, I did that. Wow. It's that satisfaction.
It is. It totally is. And it's because you go to school, you graduate, you get a thing that says you knew what you were doing. So you get to walk around with that. I don't have a thing that says I know what I'm doing. I just have outside validation. And those are dark days when you're not getting it, or when you're begging for it, or where you get needy because you're human and you're trying to balance what you know. Sorry for breaking you up there. But I was just curious because that. Thank you for telling me that. That means I will take that and run. That said, okay, so you're stolen. You get pulled into the Hollywood parade, and is it after the parade that RuPaul calls and says, "Girl, script supervise with me"?
It's more like 4 years later.
Okay, sure. All right. Fast forward.
Yes, but essentially I did I did the Global Spin Awards, I did a couple other live things, and then I happened to do a show, I think, was this before or after? It was Dear Blank, and I think it's a Netflix series or something like that, and it was where sports people come in, or idols get to read a letter from a fan that wrote to them, and actually kind of reenact the fan letter, and then they come in at the end, that person wrote it, and they get to meet their hero.
This is like a Drunk History, but not Drunk History.
Yeah, exactly. Like, except for like celebrities getting gushed on from regular everyday people. That's better than Drunk History, in my opinion.
I agree.
But yeah, so I ended up working with the lady who produces for RuPaul. I didn't know that at the time. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, you did such a great job. We need a script supervisor for RuPaul. Would you mind coming on?" And I was like, So I got to do the finale episode of, I think, season 13. I script supervised the reunion and the finale for that season.
Okay, so like, you're on set, obviously, right? What's a RuPaul set like?
Oh my God. So we're, I guess, two parts. So because I did season, I think it was 13, 14, and 15. So I got to be different parts. My favorite was season 14, which was the pandemic one. And forgive me if I have the wrong season for that. But the pandemic one was hilarious because I had him in my living room because that's where I was working from.
Sure.
I had four laptops, an iPad, a TV, the whole hookup so we could make it all happen. And RuPaul happened to get on early. And so I was the only one on with him on this Zoom before we started rolling. And he was just like, "I hope this gets done by my Judge Judy. I got to watch my Judge Judy today." I was like, "Oh my God, that's priorities there, man." But he's lovely. Absolutely. I would not want a better boss, to be honest. He's great.
Is there anything that you can prepare yourself for to walk into a room with a bunch of men who are all just wanting to kick the shit out of each other and be the next big drag queen?
At the end of the day, they all know that they're human.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And so therefore they kind of keep that humility. And I can appreciate that about them because they know that they're not the only ones doing it. And because each one of them are helping create the platform and permission, like that's the beautiful thing that I got out of seeing the show and doing it.
That's awesome because, because you think in a competition, like my reality television is only in competition format. I refuse to watch the Kardashians or the boat shows. Like, fuck that. That stuff just makes me want to pull my hair out, what little I have. But if it's a food show, if it's a lumberjack show, if it's anything that there's a competition, Dance for Your Life, these things I'm attracted to, and I'm glad to know everybody's there lifting up the idea because it is something to lift up together.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that came really apparent because we got to do the year after the pandemic. Instead of being a script soup, I had to be COVID compliance, but I wouldn't have had it any other way because I got to actually enjoy the show.
Sure.
And really be more intricately involved. Intricately is not a word, but I got to be more intricate to the process.
Yeah.
And one of our COVID guys was with the ladies because we had to have somebody assigned to talent in case COVID came up. We needed to know. But he said it was the best thing he'd ever done in his life. And the people and the friendships that he got to develop and like getting to know the ladies and everything. It was just great.
I can't wait for everybody to hear that and know that RuPaul and you had a Zoom meeting together. Of all the places, right? Of all the places to have a little chit chat with Mr. RuPaul, that's a lot of fun. Well,
and like not to turn it on a sad note, but same thing happened with Bob Saget. I did the oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the show, but Comedy Gives Back right after the pandemic shut down everything. They did a fundraiser for comedians and they got everyone from Adam Sandler, Bob Saget, Sarah, what's her name? That's a comedian. They got all these big names to come on and just be on TV for 10, 15 minutes. They could say whatever, they could do a set, they could just talk shit, didn't matter. But Bob Saget also jumped on Zoom early for that one, and it was just me and him. And he was like the most polite dude, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't mean to get on. And obviously you're here, so maybe you didn't mean to get on." I was like, "No, we're just all early.
We're punctual."
Like that's my little like heart right there, being like, "Ah, I got to be with Bob Saget."
Oh man, I tread on one credit. You mentioned the Clerks poster behind me. I actually got to interview Kevin Smith for Skip the Dishes. When he did Movies Pop-Up, when he came to Canada, my buddy is the graphic designer for Skip the Dishes up here. So they did like a whole thing where Skip would deliver during the pandemic instead of you having to go to a pop-up so you could still have it. So they wanted to do a Q&A with him. And long story short, I told my buddy like 3 months before they even like really solidified it. I said, if you're in that room and someone's like, "Hey, do you know a guy who could do this?" You say my name. You don't say my name until they ask you because I don't want you to get fired for picking me, right? So come the time he calls me, he's like, "Yeah, dude, they asked if I knew anybody." And I was like, "Well, so?" He's like, "They want to interview you." And I was like, "Okay." Cut to 2 days later, I get the job. They ask me, and this is how much I don't know about what I'm doing. So I don't know that you can get paid to moderate shit. So she's like, "What's your fee?" And I'm like, $100 in skip credits. So they got me for 1 hour to interview Kevin Smith about Movies Pop-Up for $100 in skip credits. That's 2 fucking meals I got out of that whole thing.
Hey,
but I know
sometimes food is better than money.
That experience, the tape I have of it, it's mine. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. It was fantastic. But he came in the room and it was right after Thanksgiving, and it's one of those moments where like I'm waiting and he's not in the room yet, and everybody else is in the room waiting for us to do this Instagram live thing. And then some guy this is just before he walks in, some guy types in the chat room at the bottom. He was like, "Is this Kevin Smith if you bought him on wish.com?" And,
oh my God.
And I'm like, "Oh, there goes my confidence." And then someone's like, "I think this is his brother." And I'm like, "I'm not his fucking brother."
Oh.
Finally, dude pops in,
man.
and he's like, "Sorry, I was in the bathroom. Thanksgiving got the better of me." And I was like, "All good, dude. Let's go."
Wow.
So, yeah, I do understand meeting people you appreciate in awkward Zoom like environments. Anyway.
No, I got to meet Kevin Smith when I did Earth to Ned, speaking of puppets and things like that. Because I got to work with Jim Henson Studio, his son Brian. They were doing a TV show called Earth to Ned for Disney Plus, where we interviewed a lot of stars, and it was an alien talk show trying to understand human pop culture. And so we got to bring on Kevin Smith, and I think he had a delightful time. He gave a lot of good answers.
I heard about this. He talked about it on his podcast because he put a bunch of photos online of him being around Muppets. That was the show you were on.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's
puppets are the shit. What's your most favorite thing you've worked on that's not yours? Because I want to get into Pie and I want to get into the sketches and stuff that you're doing, so we have time. But like, what's RuPaul sounds just like the unicorn, right? The show where everybody gets along and all a rising tide raises all ships, and there's no animosity, and the ladies are great, and all these things are just fucking flowing. But like, is your favorite one as similar to that, or is maybe something darker, maybe something harder?
I mean, it's similar because, like you, competition shows are my Achilles tendon. If they're on TV, you got my attention. Because we had the great pleasure of working on a show called Tough as Nails on CBS, which actually went to Canada this last season.
I've had it the whole time.
Oh my God.
We've had it the whole time. I have one of those extra channels on Amazon that has Tough as Nails. That show's so much fun. I work in construction. That's my day job. Like I work at United Rentals. Actually. Yeah. So if you've ever seen United Rentals boom on set, that's the company I work for up here. And I do film vendor and film sales up here with them, but I totally lost my train of thought. So that's fine. Go back to what you were saying.
Yeah. No, but like Terry Casanola, who's the EIC or executive in charge of that show, is just a special individual. Yes. He like there's no job too small and there's no job too petty for him to do. If it's even just emptying the trash cans, he gets up and does it. And that was such a great example for me to see, because I'm that kind of person too, where I'm like 2 steps ahead, and why not just me do it instead of saying, let's get a PA and then 2 hours later. Like he set such a great example for me to see that there are those kinds of people in entertainment. And as a producer, because that's what I aspire to be, is someone that walks the walk and talks the talk and doesn't have to be like, sometimes. But
when the camera's
show
looking.
The show itself though was a blast. Like we were at a different location every day. And the competition, because the contestants don't leave, they get to continue because they have the team competition side. Yeah. Like they really bond they form such a bond. That's what the saying is, form such a bond. And it's so great to see how they actually care for one another. And that breakdown, like when you see it on TV, when those last 2 people are in the overtime and they don't want to beat each other because they don't want to do that. It's honest. It's absolutely genuine. And to be involved in that environment is just amazing. And it was my foray to seeing how you can work as a producer in that area and really understand the inner workings of, instead of like the disgusting bachelorette where it's like, oh, let me be the bad person and make up shit and say, oh yeah, he kissed her when that didn't even happen. And now we've got drama that at least looks exciting for America, podunk town, but didn't really happen. It's nice to see a genuine competition with people who care about each other.
Totally. No. And that's what's cool. It's the only show where it's like you're eliminated, but you're still here. Like you still got to pull your weight. And I think that's interesting in and of itself, because those kinds of people, that the blue collar business owner, hardworking, dirt under the fingernails, salt of the earth, hardworking humans, they've got a thing that's unlike a lot of other people. And I think that really shines on television because it's like they don't step on each other. They try to figure out their shit. Like the team challenges are always a lot of fun. I think my favorite one, I think, was the first season where they had to take the airplane engine apart and then put it back together with all those rivets. I was like, oh my God. Like just, it's such a great idea. Cause do they pick each, like, cause everybody has a different background, military, cop, carpenter, like some hard job. Do they pick them so that they're focused around at least some of the things some of these people do, or is it like drawn random and then it's like, all right, up to you?
I wasn't as well versed into the competition side of it and the challenge producing side of it, but what I do know is they sometimes try not to make the challenges in certain people's forays, but it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So they know, like, before we even start filming, and I think even before they choose the final contestants, they know what the challenges are for the full season.
Okay.
And then it's just a matter of, if someone's got a special foray for something, do they last that long to get to what they should have been competing in and would have won?
I get it.
Yeah, like that's the hard part, is like, somebody's really strong in construction and can put together like a window, no problem, but they're out from the individual cost, the individual challenge. It's kind of sad to see that, because you're like, you would have won this one.
Oh yeah, you would have cakewalked it, man. It would have been a nothing thing for you. I'm really happy that you're telling me that reality television isn't as nasty as I've perceived it to be. And that's only because of idiots like Ryan Seacrest who invent the Kardashians. Fuck that human. I can't stand that. Like, it's such a... It is a stain on America that Bravo even exists as a television network some days. Like, there's this new one called Naked something in the UK where
Naked and Afraid.
No, not Naked. No, I wish it was Naked and Afraid. This is like you're on a dating show and you meet naked. So you just get it all out of the way. And then if you like each other, then you go on dates after with your clothes on, but you meet naked. And I'm like, this is the thing that's tearing apart the moral fabric of the world, because it aggravates people. Whereas RuPaul and Tough as Nails are fun to watch. You learn a little thing, and everybody's having a good time behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's someday the reality TV will take a swing the other direction.
I'm sure, like everything does. Are you before we get into the stuff that you've made recently in the new trailer you may or may not want to release to our listeners here, are we happy with the news in the last 48 hours that stuff is happening?
Oh my God, I will be happy when SAG struck a deal. So like, it's interesting because the work that I have been doing, we started it before the strikes happened.
Yeah.
It was already in the calendar, it was already in the books. I think when we shot, because I'm not a WGA signatory company, I'm not competing in the contracts that were being struck against. But the challenging thing was, because I'm so involved in the industry, I'm DGA, PGA, I'm a local 871 IATSE member, and I didn't want to look like I didn't care.
Sure.
And so still trying to sit there and be like, hey, I need a sound mixer for my shoot. It was just an awkward situation that I was like, should I even be asking? And now with that done, with WGA moving forward and SAG hopefully not too far behind, like, it'll be nice to be able to promote and say, hey, this is the project I worked on, and, not feel like my actors have to be like, hey, I was in a short that it might be premiering, and if you look at this link, I can't say do it, but look at it.
Yeah. If you happen to just accidentally type in www.
watchmynextshort.com. I don't know if that's actually a domain. That would be
It should be.
good.
That'd be a great domain.
Yeah.
No, but because Sunday night, there was I've been following it because really there's nothing going on. So I was like, okay, well, how do you do interviews if people can't talk about stuff? And like, we're pro union here. Like, I think it's shitty what happens to you guys who are like, yeah, here's enough money up front, but it's impossible to live in LA without constant work. Your contracts, you're not allowed to option yourself on anything else until they tell you that you can, figure out. And it's like, you used to be able to write for 4 shows a year. Now you write for 2 and there's 6 months in between. Like, it's just not fair or fun anymore. And make-believe should be both of those things. But
yeah, exactly.
What do I know? Well, that's awesome. And I personally think SAG was like, listen, AI is coming for both of us. So that was a total act of solidarity. And if AI can be curtailed in the WGA, then it can also be pulled back in SAG as well too. And I'm an outsider. What do I know? But like, from what I can see, it was the streaming rights and it was the AI that were the two biggest issue.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. And then a lot of, because of COVID, mini writers' rooms where it's like half the size of a normal staffing. And like, it's difficult because it's great to see one person come up with like 3-4 ideas and do the Chuck Lorre thing where they've got like 6 shows, or Seth MacFarlane. It is really great, but you also are shooting yourself in the foot if you don't develop people underneath and they don't get that experience or get to see what that is. And that pipeline going away, I'm glad WGA fought to keep that in some format. We'll see what it is.
Yeah, it doesn't
by the
seem
time
like
this comes out, we'll know. But
yeah, no shit. Yeah, I'm glad too, because like you can't be a showrunner if you don't watch the process of writing to then it actually being made to the editing room. Like you're missing so many things that don't teach you any. Like you being a script supervisor, right? Like without that position, you can't unlock the keys to the next room.
Exactly.
All right, no, that's super good because I'm like, come on, guys, let's get back to business here. Everybody's and it's like the crew, the hard crew, like you guys, where the director, the cinematographer, the sound mixer, everybody who's like reliant on those 2 jobs having something. It's been really nice to see the solidarity behind the union and those auctions that were happening. I was like, this is a pretty cool idea. Like what you could get Hannah Waddingham to just follow somebody and do Shame for like $2,500. I was like, that's brilliant. I just want to do that and say I did that. I don't even care if I don't even know the person.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So we're closing in on the end here. And before we get there, you sent me your most recent sketch, How We Met, I believe is the title, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, How We Met.
Fuck yes, I remembered that without looking at my cheat notes. And like it premiered on a page, like a pretty big page. What page was that?
So it debuted on Gold Comedy's platform. And for those of you who don't know Gold Comedy, it is a female-forward, female-focused comedy network that is trying to bring that voice forward in the comedy space. So they have like a lot of classes that you can learn how to do stand-up, you can write sketches, all that kind of stuff. And we're part of their digital teams. So we create sketches and put them on the platform. So that way it gains a little bit more attention and it gives people an idea of like, hey, we're creating here and we're putting ourselves out there. So please like join us and help us grow and enjoy and laugh. Basically just laugh at us.
It's a great bit. It's shot beautifully. It's hilarious. It's got everything you want. Was it like 5 minutes max? I can't remember the time on it.
Yeah, it's like 4 minutes, 44 seconds.
Yeah, you would know, wouldn't you?
I just like that it's 444. That's what I like.
Yeah, there you go. That puts your OCD to bed, I get. No, but okay, so like explain the premise because I'm gonna screw it up. But fuck, is it funny? Like tell listener what they should go check out.
So essentially, it's about a couple who's about to start writing their wedding website, How We Met page. They're getting all ready and cozy. They finally did the engagement, all that kind of stuff. And then they realize that How They Met is not as dreamy as you might imagine it to be. And so as they're trying to write out what everybody expects to read in a How You Met page, we actually get to relive how they really met, which is very boring and sitting and not doing a lot of talking. And then, how most relationships prove that you shouldn't be with someone, cheating.
Yep.
Maybe that there might have been some swinging.
Like you do
Yeah.
the thing, you build it so it does this, right? Because it keeps getting like worse and worse and worse. We start off with like how they met when like a friend introduces the two of them and like it's clearly not meant to be. And then we've cut back to them cuddling, which is the bit, right? Because they're so happy now. And then we cut back to like they're like my favorite one is he's brushing his teeth and he's like, what are we need to talk, and I'm like, oh my god, I fucking said those words. Like there are certain cringe moments where like it's like watching The Office, you just can't fucking look because you've been there, you've said it, you've done it. So like, is this maybe an ex in your life? Was this inspired by how you and your husband met? Like where does the true to life come into it?
So the screenwriter Lee Cesario, I'm probably saying that wrong. Apologies, Lee. She'll hate me later. But Lee basically grew up to parents that divorced, and so she herself is terrified of trying to find the one to get married to.
Okay.
So this came to her being like, what if this is how this happens? And she was tired of people being like, oh, we are so lovey-dovey from the get-go. Da, da, da. And like my connection to it is like, yeah, you like there's certain PC ways that you present yourself as a couple, because I was actually in the process of getting married.
Okay. So
yeah.
Did you do a page? Did you have a page?
Yeah, exactly. And so I already knew like our how we met page, at least me and my husband had a nice fun way.
Sure.
So it wasn't as boring. But I was like, any other ex, like had I had to do this with him, it would be this like, yeah, and then he took me out for pizza. And pizza is my favorite, by the way. If you didn't know, pizza is my favorite. Trying to bury the lead and be like, I don't know why I pizza. I hate pizza. But, it just really struck a chord with me. And, like, all the interactions afterwards to be like, you shouldn't be together. Shouldn't you be doing something else? And, like, the false breakups and the friends getting involved. And, like, yeah.
It's everything. You nailed, like, every single scenario where like it's the constant fighting, it's the what was it, the lambada lessons, or like the
salsa.
Yeah, it's just dance. but then you bring back the joke later, and then it's the dude with the dance teacher, and they're dancing together.
Yes.
So like do we have tons of outtakes from this and different ideas? Like, what was some of the stuff that didn't, because you map a really good relationship between what she wrote and what you put on the screen from start to finish, and it because it's real, it's genuine, and I'm embarrassed. So you've registered with the viewer, they have something in common with you, and they've laughed along the way. So that's your trifecta of like a perfect bit. So yeah, like how?
I mean, there wasn't much thrown out because like we knew it was solid from the get-go.
Okay.
The outtakes I have are like from the discovering in the salsa scene when he walks in with roses and she's like, it's not a date, I promise. Or I forgot what the line is exactly, but she's like, it's just a lesson, or we're just dancing. But it took a little, like, we discovered that I think on take 3 in an improv where Zach, I love Zach Dylan, he played the hot guy. And he just happened to grab Alex's hand and was like, smack at the end of the take right before I called cut. And I was like, okay, cool. That's the punctuation to this comedy scene. So we're keeping that. It was just like a fun aha moment all along. And then because I knew I had Zach, that hot guy entrance became what it was. I knew, yeah, because it literally in the script, this is what's fun being a director and being creative in comedy, is literally all that's written in the script is hot guy stands in front of Brian waves from behind. That's all that was written. I could have just easily just had Brian like blocked and, then all of a sudden he just peeks his head out and then that's it. That's the moment. But no, I had to, because we shot at my house. And I have a really long driveway. And when the DP was here, he was like, do we have to do it in this little itty bitty corner? And I was like, and that got me thinking, and I reversed the blocking. So instead of having the girls talking, playing the cornhole, it would have been in the corner where hot guy came in. I reversed that whole thing in the blocking, and it became this huge thing that everybody's like, oh, hot guy, that entrance, that kiss, what? That is all the girls fainting? What?
You slow-mo it down. He gives the look like everything about him is just so fucking douche. It's so perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it was just discovery through it all. And that's what I love about comedy, and that's what I love about how we met doing that. It's great.
Do you like, as a director, as an actor, you've done both. As an actor, you're like, let me play. Let me come up with something. Let me try it this way. And as a director, time is money, money's time, as you mentioned. So, like, do you leave room for, like, try it your way, try one take, or are you like, go, and then you pick from that? Like, how do you, what's your style of direction?
It depends. And it really, like, as I'm starting to do this more and more, it really just depends on my relationship with the actor and how much I know they can bring. Because there are some greener actors that they're just clinging on to what you have to say. And they're like, tell me I need to be mad and I'll be mad. And you're like, okay, be mad. And you're kind of feeding them the fun bits and being like, don't forget to throw the tray. Don't forget to do this. But when you have someone like Zach, and you have someone like Dushan who played Brian, you can kind of give them a little bit of rope and say, hey, don't hang yourself. Go, like, do something. And that's where, like, because I couldn't figure out for that second beat where he walks over to the second girl on what would happen. Because I knew the kiss. I was like, the kiss has to happen.
Yeah.
And the fact that his wardrobe had the open button, he was like, well, I've got abs, you know this. And I was like, shut up, I have a husband. But he was like, I could just shimmy my abs. And I was like, okay, let's see what that looks like on camera. Because sometimes you do something and the camera doesn't catch it. It just doesn't. And it happened to work really well. So when you have an actor that's got ideas and you really feel there's a symbiotic trust to move forward with that, 100%. I always leave room for that. And I try to be conscious of how many takes I'm doing in order to leave room for that.
Are you Fincher? Do you demand 72 takes? Can you get it in 10 or less? Like, what's your...
and everybody's got a different answer for this. I know when it comes to TV, you're limited on so much time that you're like, okay, take 4 and that's it. That, like, I got to move on to something else. And if I can come back, I'll come back. But with my own projects, I tend to notice when my actors are at their strongest and whether it's being first up or last up. And I really do my best in the rehearsal to say, okay, let's do it the bad take right now. Let's do it the funky community theater take. Let's do it as if nobody cares and nobody's watching. So that way we already have the piano keys of where we can go with it.
Okay.
And then when we get on set, I can at least already have some starters and be like, all right, remember that one? Let's go that one first. And that helps me maximize the amount I can get in the least amount of takes.
Interesting. So a little before, so that you've got a base, and then play within that, or if that works, cut, move on. Exactly. That's fun. That's because I mean, if I always imagine, I'm like, how would I do that? And I'm like, shitty, first of all, but because I'd be looking beyond the camera. I don't know how to look. I don't know how to turn left. I'm fucking Derek Zoolander. It's hilarious. I got it on camera. So like, because I just shut down, right? I get all goofy and shit, but like, it's fun to know that it's like, all right, let's get the jitters out. Let's get the bombacity out of this scenario, and then oh, that's our ceiling. Okay, move on.
Yeah.
So when you say your projects, that's out of Pie Productions?
Yep, Pie Productions.
Okay, so like you have a tagline. I like a tagline. We have taglines here. It's where the art of cinema meets the power of debate. That's our tagline.
Yes.
And it's cheesy as shit. But yours, let me find this here. Founded in 2006, Pie Productions highlights narrative ensemble stories that overcome dysfunction, whether that's in love, family, or friendship. Do you find a lot of comedy in dysfunction?
Oh, yeah, you have to. My whole life has been a dysfunction, and I've had to laugh through it. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I feel like when you have comedy and there's dysfunction, you can learn a lot more about yourself and a lot more of what's going on in the actual circumstance. Everything I know from like complicated like life situations is all because I saw it on Roseanne, or I saw it on Cheers, or I saw it on like those relationship driven shows that really put issues at the forefront and found ways through comedy to let you have a taste and then smack you over the head and say, but this is what you can do about it.
Yeah, it is an easy pill to swallow.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I mean, yeah, if you can't, like, you know, all the Hallmark cards, if you can't laugh during the bad times, can't laugh during the good times. Like, as cheesy as those things sound, yeah, like dysfunction and heartbreak, that's where we're our most real and raw. So, you know, that's where you can find a lot of things that you wouldn't normally find that might be funny. What else do you guys, like, you do a bunch of different, like, beyond directing and doing your own projects and stuff, I think you guys offer some services, some things that are on, like, what else do you guys do at Pie?
So we do offer something called actor reels. So as most people know as an actor, they need to have footage to show a casting director what they can do as far as being on camera. How do they look? How do they talk? How do they walk? What kind of characters that they want to be when they get a chance to be actually cast in a TV show or a film. So what we do is we actually sit with an actor we talk about what they should naturally be going for. So if they have more of an army look, let's see if we should do an army scene. Or if they're like the innocent, like younger version of me, where it's like, oh, well, let's write a scene like Legally Blonde, where you're the one coming in and you really do have brains, just everybody doubts you. So we'll write a scene catered to what they're looking for. And then from there, we put it on camera. I edit it. I make sure that it looks crystal clear and high quality, because that matters when it comes to a casting director or an agent seeing it. And then we give it to the actor to do with as they please. And I've been lucky that the ones that I've done the actor reels for have actually gotten agents, managers, have actually gotten booked from the little roles that they've done.
Fuck
and
yeah.
it's, to me, it's my way of giving back and still kind of having that connection to being a performer, because I know that struggle.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned you want to walk the walk, so even as far as you've come, you still remember what it's like to have a reel, and
Yep.
getting to LA and having your car towed or ticketed, and
Yes,
you know,
rear-ended
and all that stuff. Like you know what it's like to be there. So yeah, and that's like the whole, like the Sherpa analogy, like bringing somebody up the mountain with you. So because it is one of those, like, Zoom really broke the barrier between Hollywood and the rest of us. And
Yes.
and we had to, but as much as, I mean, you guys don't want to go back to it, because I'm sure you thank you for doing a Zoom meeting. It was your bread and butter for 2 years during a pandemic. So if I'm causing PTSD, I apologize. Not another fucking screen.
No worries.
But it's nice when, you know, someone opens the door and says, hey, come on in. There's a lot of room in here. You know, don't be afraid that someone's going to take your job by showing them some of the tricks you've learned.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't know if this is his quote specifically, but I'm just going to quote Ben Whitehair. He's another Colorado entertainment legend. He's an actor. But what I really try to live by, and that he said, is don't withhold information, because you never know if they're actually going to take action on that information. So you could give them the book of life and how to do it right. And it's up to that person to actually follow through. So if you withhold and think, oh, this is what I have to be, and this is what I had to do, and you get to discover it on your own, like, that's just a shitty perspective, because you never know. That person you're talking to could just be like, oh, I need to get headshots. Okay, cool. And then they never go do it.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, exactly. You couldn't have said it better. I need headshots. Yes, you do, man.
Yeah.
And a reel made by Pie Pie Productions, motherfucker.
Exactly.
So I think you and I would probably sit down in front of a wall of movies, of comedy movies, and probably point and land on the same things without even knowing much about each other. So I've prepared a couple questions about the stuff that you watch and the stuff that you consume, because you're just like me at the end of the day.
Okay.
So top 3 comedies in one word. We're going to play this game. Okay. So your 3 favorite comedies and the first word that comes to your mind. So
Okay.
you say your first one.
All right. So like dodgeball.
Okay. Perfect. You can dodge a wrench. You can dodge a ball. What's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of dodgeball?
Oh, stupid Vince Vaughn. Stupidity.
Yeah. What's Jason Bateman as the sports announcer gets me every time.
Yes.
Do you remember where you were when you saw it the first time? Was that a theater watch? Was that something you watched at home?
I watched it at home, and I honestly wish I could remember the first time I saw it, because it was probably epic. And like, I know I'm just on my 762nd time of watching it,
Sure.
and it never fails. It's a good laugh every time.
I think that's Helen Mirren's remote drop. I'm not sure. Somebody recently was like, I can't continue my day if dodgeball's on. Like, it just makes them stop in their tracks and move on. Okay. Next comedy.
Okay.
What's your second favorite?
Let's see here. See, okay, this is going TV, but I'm going to go Futurama.
Okay. See, and there's a story unfolding over the course of the Reel Debaters. I am the worst for animation. Like, I have a hard time sitting down and taking animation in the same vein as I critique an HBO show or a movie or something, right?
Yeah.
Like animation to me is lowbrow. I know it's not. To all the animators out there, you're doing wonderful fucking things with animation. I just have a hard time getting into the story. But Futurama, oh my God. Okay. What's the first word that comes to your mind, Rick? I'm not Rick, sorry, that's not.
Rick's not even Bender, I don't think.
I meant Bender.
Yes, it's definitely Bite My Shiny Metal Ass. I have a Bender poster on my wall, which you can't see. But I have King Bender on my wall.
And what's the first
and I dressed
word?
up as Leela for Halloween every once in a while.
Really?
So.
Nice. Did you like it when it came back for that brief minute?
Oh, I love it every time that it comes back because it's the show that's never going to die.
The first live show we ever did, I had to come out to our audience and tell them that my mother didn't allow me to watch The Simpsons as a kid. So I am very, like, I know Go Banana and like, oh, you know, like the little famous jokes from The Simpsons I can catch, but I can't quote it. But like, is Futurama better than The Simpsons or on par with The Simpsons?
It's a different comedy taste. Here's the thing is I feel like Futurama is an intelligent funny because you have to understand what's going on to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Because it's like sciencey and it's kind of like relationship based. Whereas like The Simpsons, I feel like you can drop into any episode and whatever it is, it's going to be stupid and it's going to be funny.
This is very true. You do have to understand some science for Futurama and understand the humor behind the science where everyone knows an idiot like Homer.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, I really liked The Simpsons because we were allowed to watch it growing up. And I'm sorry that your parents didn't because it really was good in the first couple years.
I know. When Conan wrote it was the best I've heard.
Yeah. But, like, I feel sad for it because once it started getting political and too current day, like, it just, I lost love for it.
Well, and when that stuff's peppered everywhere, it's like I'm using you as an escape from reality. So I'm showing up here for dumb, stupid, and ridiculous. I'm not showing up here to be reminded about why the Blues and the Reds aren't getting along. So let's leave this shit out, and I'll get back to that once I'm on CNN again. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. A lot of stuff, a lot of shows go sour when they do that, and it's not for a lack of wanting to put it in and have that conversation. It's just forcing it sometimes, and then it's like, this doesn't belong here or anywhere for that matter. Okay, third comedy, last one.
Yes.
Back to screen, or are we going to stay little screen or big screen?
Okay. We're going to go back big screen because this is the only way to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not probably a comedy in 90% of the people's eyes, but it's a comedy in mine. And that is going to be the Fast and Furious series.
Okay, that I love that you think that that's comedy because I can get along. What do you think is funny, the attempt at acting or the jokes?
Both. It's both because nothing gets me more than Vin Diesel being like family. Like that is top of the line, and then like 7 is the best. I can't. Now Furious fans are going to be all
I don't
mad
know which. I don't know where we are at all.
6 or 7. Okay. But I think it was in 6 when they really started to bring the pop culture. Speaking of like the opposite way Simpsons did it, when they brought pop culture into the world that was Fast and Furious and started making fun of Luda and his big hands in his music video and all of the things that were going down in real life and brought it like that was top notch.
Well, that's fourth wall shit. That's smart stuff.
Exactly. But like that, and then all the insane, let's fly a car from one building to the next building, and let's just say that's logic.
Yeah.
Gravity doesn't exist, and why not? So, yeah, I know that there's like, they have a whole army sector dedicated to the Fast and Furious that tests the theory, does the math, and says this is physically possible by some 1%. But yeah, I
was flipping through Tubi the other night and I landed on the first one, and it's the scene where Brian's like, I don't got any money, but I got pink slips from my car. And then they're like, okay, we'll take it. And he's like, all right, but listen, when I win, I get the money and respect.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck? That's the worst line. I do not know how James Wan let that fucking fly. Some things are worth more than money. I'm like, it just made me want to throw up in my fucking mouth. But I kept watching.
Yes. And then, you've got the evolution of Jason Momoa
Right.
and that the latest, and that was just okay. I think it's gone too far. I can't wait to see 11, and I hope it just never ends. Like it's got to be a franchise that goes on until Vin dies.
It's the only thing I think besides I am Groot. I think it's the only thing in his calendar ever. Like it's Groot or Dom, and it's to the point where like you've jumped the shark, you've nuked the fridge. Like you can't do any more. Like they've even gone to space. I haven't seen past 5 or 5. I think 5 is kind of when The Rock showed up is where I left off, and I've been told that they're spectacles, and I enjoy a good entertainment, popcorn movie. Who doesn't, right? And I'm going to watch them again and see where I find the comedy now that you've mentioned it. Have I missed this the entire time? Have I been misgenrering this?
I think you have. The world has. Let's be real. It's action, but it's comedy. To me, it's like right up there with Rush Hour, which is probably a bad, like, as a film, cinematic, whatever person, putting it in the same class as Rush Hour is not the smartest idea, but it's up there.
No, I get it. A pirate sees a pirate, as they say. I pick up what you're putting down. You mentioned the trailer. You've got something else coming. Can we talk about that, or is that something? Okay? Speaking
of action, comedy. I had the great pleasure. I partnered with a sketch group here in LA. They're called Whoops with an exclamation point. Okay. But they do sketch comedy at a place called Pack Theater, and they've been together for about 1.5 years. So we did a WWE match in a diner over somebody stealing 3 crinkle cut fries. And that is how we came to be with Undercover Wrestler.
Do you have chair? Do you have a breaking chair? Do you have every campy thing we can think of?
I wish we would have. We couldn't afford a breaking chair, but that would have been great. No, there is a lot of stunts. There's good face planting. There's a lot of people being thrown around. It's a good time. If you like watching wrestling, you're gonna enjoy it.
Wrestling, like, did you grow up watching wrestling at all? Was there ever a thing in Aurora for wrestling?
That was my mom and brother. It was funny because my dad's a huge Hulk Hogan fan. And brother. he loved Hulk Hogan, idolized him until he got really crazy and started doing his own reality TV. And then my mom and my brother would watch it. I just remember being like, this is dumb. Like, why are people beating up each other? And why should we be watching this? My brother's gonna, and like the fun story my mom loves to remind me of is in kindergarten, because apparently I did watch it in kindergarten. I actually pinned a guy and got sent into timeout because I did a wrestling move on him.
What'd you do? Do you remember?
I don't remember, and she won't tell me because she wasn't there, and that she just remembers me crying my eyes out because I didn't get to do recess because I pinned a kid. Like,
there's some kid in the back who got put in the sharpshooter and you got sent home.
Yes.
That's amazing. Was it?
Yeah.
Please tell me it was a boy. Please tell me you did.
It was a boy.
Yes.
Yeah. I totally took down a boy, which I think is probably why I got a harsher punishment, is because it wasn't just me taking down a girl. It was like I hurt a guy's ego.
You hurt the patriarchy.
I did.
Ryan Gosling and Ken would be upset with you.
Oh yes. I'm not Ken enough for that.
No, not Knuff. Oh my God. Hashtag Knuff. I couldn't let that go.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think I watched. I think it did it debut probably in the last week or so, because it's on your site. I think I watched a little bit of the trailer.
Well, we have a little bit of a sneak peek.
Okay, all right.
With you guys, I'd love if you want to share it as the official trailer launch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll be putting that out when this episode comes out. You will have the pleasure of finding the trailer.
Well,
we have it up on YouTube.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is like next week. Actually, I don't know if I don't have my calendar in front of me, because when you're old, you need a calendar. But when this episode does drop, a week from today, you're gonna get to see the new trailer for Undercover Wrestler.
Yes,
it's such a great name, because like, who really, like, of all the things, like, is he an undercover agent perhaps, or is he an undercover cop who breaks into like, there's so many things that we can take from this. I have no idea.
Right. Well, and the best part is, what if he's just an average everyday good citizen trying to serve up some justice because the cop system sucks?
Ooh, There's some reality for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I'm looking forward to that. And as promised, Ro, I'd love your blast. Thank you so much for coming on the show and doing this. I've kept you. I'm not going to keep you any longer and break my word. Listener, if you want to get in touch with, if you're in LA and you need a reel, all of her information is going to be all over the show notes. So you can go to the website. You're going to be able to see the trailer when this drops. All the information on Roe Moore is going to be there for you. And I'll send you all the stuff after. We'll talk about that after the show, Ro, so you can do whatever you want with it. Is there anything you would like to let listener know before you go? Anything that they should follow, like, subscribe, any of that stuff? It's all you.
Yep. I mean, you're going to drop my website in the show notes and my Instagrams. I am more active on Instagram than any of the other social media, so see me there. I love sharing photos of my dogs, my sets, my stuff that I'm doing. So by all means, follow me. I'm always up for mentoring. So if anyone out there is needs some questions answered, anything about the entertainment industry, I'm more than happy to talk with them.
I might be emailing you about that. That said, thank you, listener, for tuning in to another episode. It's been a pleasure, Ro. To everybody out there, we'll see you next week. And as always, watch all the movies, kids. Ro, this is where you're going to say that. So bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
To you fair Spanish ladies.